father was a missionary, and so we went around a few provinces in Papua New Guinea. So I didn't really grow up in my own home province, which is in Manus, but grew up in a number of places. But through the process, went through different challenges, difficulties in life in the rural areas of Papua New Guinea. So that's what my childhood was like. For me, looking back now, the principles and ethics, values of Christianity shaped me up, I guess, from childhood, growing up in a Christian home, and I think that set the basis for me. Soon after university, I joined the Department of Treasury as a graduate economist, and so I started there and felt like I got thrown into the fire or something, because we had to go and get into meetings with organizations like International Monetary Fund, World Bank. Being very new to the role, it was very challenging and difficult at that time to try and understand what we were doing there with them. But I felt that also helped me grow and develop as a person, being forced to meet with institutions like that. The challenges there in the Department of Treasury, we were always under pressure, and that also helped discipline me as a person, knowing that you have to deliver a certain piece of work by a certain time. Sometimes it meant working very late into the night or right until the next morning, but that was discipline for me, and it kind of forced me to look at the value of work and the challenges, but I enjoyed the challenges. So as a graduate economist, I then moved up to an assistant secretary position in the Treasury Department, and at one point I was acting as a first assistant secretary. At one point also, just for a short time, acting as deputy secretary, and then I moved to the IRC as Commissioner for Tax, and then when the former Commissioner General moved on, I was appointed as the Commissioner General in the IRC. Something that I'm driving here in this office, which I feel is important for the country and for this office and the government, is driving a zero tolerance policy on corruption. And particularly for this organization where we're dealing with taxpayers, we need to give them confidence that we are dealing with their records and their accounts appropriately and with integrity. And it also comes back to each person and officer in the organization. When you have integrity and honesty in yourself, then you're able to apply that to everything that you do here. Because for IRC, you can have officers, and that it has happened in the past, where they've colluded with the taxpayer and gone and adjusted all sorts of records and tax liabilities, reduced them, etc. And that then impacts on the appropriate amount of revenue that should come in, should be collected for the government. Another important part of work that I've been driving here as well is modernization and transformation of the IRC. We've now been able to get some autonomy in terms of now being a statutory agency, and with that has given us a lot of flexibility now to deal with, say, officers who have committed some fraud or done some corrupt deals, etc. We can just easily discipline them and get them to exit the organization, whereas in the past we would have to go through the processes through the normal public service, and sometimes that takes a lot of time, and sometimes they come back here when they should not have, and so that's something that we've achieved. We also have this Mary Safe place in which women who are being threatened or being abused or bashed up, etc., can just run into the building and find a temporary shelter here while we contact the relevant areas, police or wherever they can go and seek shelter. So for me, that's my outreach to the community as well. So I'm not just a mean tax person, but I also care for the community. I have faced challenges from external stakeholders, and sometimes I wonder whether it's because I'm a woman. In Papua New Guinea, it is always a challenge to be a female leader and dealing with cultural and traditional expectations of what a woman should be and where a woman should be, and going into the community. Sometimes you are forced to go back and comply with cultural expectations. So you're not a leader anymore, but you're just another member of a female member of a community, and so it's still a challenge. I think sometimes people may doubt you in terms of your capability as a woman to run an organization, but I just do the best I can. An important factor to always keep in mind is that as you get into a position of power, it can help you or it can dig your own grave. Power can be your worst enemy, and it's always important to remain humble, be the person that you are, always respect the laws and regulations that guide you, that, for example, for me, the Finance Management Act, the tax legislations, etc., which we have to comply with. If we think that being in a position of power, I can do my own thing, that's where our downfall will be.